I've never owned a bike before.
Dude, I love your bike.
So nice.
Who called the cops?
That lady that was out in front of yard filming. If I keep riding wheelies, she's gonna have me towed.
What is up, Mini Moto fam? Riding around in the backwoods of Wamba, Texas. We're way out here. But last week I was talking about how I wasn't going to be able to make it to the Smoky Mountain Crawl, and that I was sending some stuff with a friend of mine, and I posted up some pictures. I finally got all of that stuff done and shipped out this weekend. So if you're going to the crawl, they're going to have, I think it's like somewhere between 300 and 400 decals. They're going to have more decals than they can give away, I'm pretty sure. So if you are going to the crawl, make sure you go and check them out and get you some free decals or maybe a free hell mount and hell mic. If you're not going to the crawl and you still want to get a hell mic or a hell mount or decals, make sure you go over to www.helequip.com with the logo up there, and you can purchase one today. We do international shipping. We've actually shipped quite a few to the UK and other places around the world, so be sure to go to helequip.com and check that out. Man, it's really hot here in Texas today. I'm so thirsty, but I'm way out in the middle of nowhere. I wish I could just snap my fingers and this become a big bike. You know what? Kawasaki Magic Powers, go! Oh, hell yeah, that's more like it. So much better. Yeah, so you might have noticed that, well, I don't actually have magical ninja powers. This is actually a 2018 Kawasaki Ninja 400. I've been talking about buying this bike for, well, ever since they released the information about it. It just hit dealers a couple of months ago, and there aren't a whole lot of videos in the States on the 400. But let me tell you something. Before you get confused and think that this is just your average beginner bike that has no balls whatsoever, you would be incorrect. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Notagram YouTube channel. I normally do motovlogs and review videos for my Z125, but we will be incorporating the Ninja 400 in the future. Now, this isn't exactly a review video. This is more of a first impressions video, being that I've only had the bike for 2 days and only put about 150 miles on it. So if you want more updates on how I like my Ninja, say 6 months from now or a year from now, hit subscribe and you will see more and more of the Ninja 400 to come. Now, I'd also like to point out, if you're new to this channel, that I'm not a professional rider. I haven't been riding for, oh man, the wind. I've only been riding for a year. I actually started out on the Kawasaki Z125. If you actually go back to the very first video on this channel, you will see it. It's a terrible video, but it was the very, very first video I made on the Z. So this is really more of an impressions video for me, being a new rider or a semi-new rider, coming from a Mini and going up to a big bike. And I've had a lot of people say, well, that's not really a big bike, it's a 400, but I hate to break it to them, but this is a very special 400. Like, it's not a Ninja 250, it's not a Ninja 300, it's a whole new beast, a whole new animal. Granted, it is just a 2-cylinder, but it is a big 2-cylinder, and it's actually semi-high compression. They are 11.5 to 1, I believe. which is a little bit higher than what you would see in like a Ninja 650, but not quite as high as what you would see in a ZX6R. Oh, it just turns so smooth in those sharp corners. Love that. So again, not a professional review, just my opinion based on what little I know coming from a smaller bike. But let me tell you, if you want to be impressed, it will definitely impress you. I've only had it for 2 days. I'm not completely comfortable with it, but holy shit, it's fun. Woo, air brake. Now, like in a lot of my other videos, I like to get the bad stuff out of the way first, the things that I don't like. And on this bike, there's only really 2 things. One being the grips, which are standard Kawasaki grips. I'm pretty sure that the Z came with the exact same grips as these. If not, then really close. They're not comfortable. Your hands kind of slip around on them a lot, and they kind of rub your hands raw after a while. But, you know, that's an easy thing to fix. The other thing being the exhaust. Now, if you go back to the video where I was walking around it in the parking lot of Love's, you notice the exhaust, for one, is monstrous and hideous. So that's kind of a problem. Not to mention, it's really quiet. Like, when you're just idling along, like right here, we're going like 47 in 5th gear, turning like 5,500 RPMs. You can't hear the bike at all. I can't hear the bike. But then when you get up into the power band, you start to hear it around 65, and then it gets loud and crazy and sounds like a scary sport bike all the way to Redline. I think this thing will sound amazing with exhaust, but there's already some companies that make some. Two Bros and Yoshimura obviously already make them. There's some Chinese ones out there that don't look too bad, but you know, we already kind of tried that with the other bike and it didn't work out so well, so we're probably going to stick with something name brand on this bike. But other than those 2 things, I love everything about it. Now, one of the things that a lot of people were saying about bigger bikes is they're not as maneuverable when you're going slow. Like when you're on a Grom or a Z and you're just cruising around, you know, you can cruise around at 2 or 3 miles an hour and not struggle to keep the bike up. And they say that that's a lot more difficult to do on a bigger bike. Again, this is my first big bike, so I really wouldn't know that by experience. That's just what I've been told, but I can say that I don't have those problems with this bike. It's extremely maneuverable at lower speeds. Granted, it does handle better when you get up, you know, into like 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. Hell, I'd even say it handles pretty good at 100. The fastest I've had it is 110 so far. It pretty much scares me at that point, but it'll do 110 at the top of 5th gear. So I'm not sure how many RPMs are left once you hit 6, but I've never made it to 6th gear while really giving it hell. Some of the reviews I watched from more advanced riders, they said that the bike leans in a little too much, or that they think it would be too much for a beginner. But to be honest, it almost feels like it does all the leaning for you. Like on the Z, I would get scared to lean over too far. I felt like the whole bike is going to tip over because I'm just so tall and top heavy. But on this thing, it basically leans for you. It's almost like lean control. Like, I don't even really have to try. I don't have to counter steer as much, or at least it doesn't seem that way. You know, I'm actually able to go around corners faster in this thing than I am on the Z, despite it being bigger and heavier. It just blasts through the corners so well. Now, they tout this thing as a beginner's bike, but I tend to disagree to some degree. I'm kind of glad that I started out on the Z and then got this thing, because the Z kind of taught me a lot about respect for the motorcycle and respect for other drivers, and not just going out and being a retard and pissing everybody off. Whereas if I'd started on this thing, you know, I probably wouldn't be near as safe, and I probably would just ride around pissing everybody off all the time. Because it's fun, it's fast enough to be fun, we'll put it that way. I said I wouldn't piss people off, and here I am blasting through a neighborhood right now. It's kind of irresistible. Like, it just rides so well. It handles corners so well. I feel like the target from Kawasaki, now I know that they built this bike really to be a race bike so that they could compete in the sub 500cc class and have a top contender. In order to do that, they had to have a production version of that bike. So this is what they built. And they built it for that purpose. She has no problem getting up to speed, handles corners like a dream. I think it's an excellent bike, and I think it's more than just a starter bike. I could see this being an excellent track bike. But another thing I think Kawasaki was thinking about when they built this bike was beginner riders that want a bike that will last them for a while. You know, you always hear about people that buy a Ninja 250 or even a Ninja 300. They ride it for a year, then they get bored and they want something faster and more fun, and they sell it, they take a loss on it, somebody else buys it, and then it gets passed around and around and around for $1,000 here and there. This is more like a beginner's bike that grows with you. It has plenty of power to keep you entertained. It gets great gas mileage. I mean, you get about, I'm only getting about 55. It's got a little indicator right there. It tells you what kind of mileage you're getting. But of course, it's not broken in yet. It's only got 155 miles on it. So once we get up to around 1,000 miles, it'll probably get a little bit better fuel mileage and have a little more power on the top end. It's very nimble. You can just see I'm just cruising up to this little turn, taking it easy. I'm in first and going 10. See, she handles really smooth, very stable, even at low speeds. But she loves to rev. Okay, I can't get crazy on this road. But yeah, this is a bike that can grow with you. It'll stay entertaining for longer. You won't get bored with it like you do on the smaller bikes, and you can still generally keep up with some of your, well, probably most of your big bike friends. Kawasaki claims that this bike only makes 45 horsepower at the crank, but dyno results have shown that they actually make 44.5 at the rear wheel, which kind of sounds like Kawasaki might be fibbing a little bit. Not to mention, if you look at some of the dyno charts from other videos, you'll notice that it has a nice, long, steady curve, and then it flattens off at the top. And some have suggested that that might be a restriction in the ECU put in place by Kawasaki so that it doesn't make as much power as it potentially could. Man, I hate white Ford Explorers. That thing scared me. I was like, oh God, am I speeding? So based on that dynograph that's showing that it's flat up top, there could be a restriction in there, and that just means that once you put a power commander on it and air intake and exhaust and auto tuner, or actually get it dyno tuned, who knows, it might could even put down 50 horsepower, which would be insane because this bike only weighs 360 pounds. So if you're a new rider and you're looking for a good starter bike, I think this is a good starter bike, but it does have a lot of power, and you can get in trouble in a hurry on it. So if you don't trust yourself to be responsible with that throttle, then you might want to avoid this one and go for something a little smaller or a little slower. However, if you're coming from a Z125 or a Honda Grom and you're looking to step into the big bike world, but you don't want to spend the price of a big 600, but you also don't want something that's as slow as what you already have, this is going to be the ultimate choice for you. I mean, the MSRP is only $5,500. It's a great deal. I mean, you compare that to, like, say, a ZX6R at $12,000 or a Ninja 650 at, I believe, $8,000. You know, this thing is a bargain, and you're getting a lot for your money. Now, some people have complained about the mirrors on this thing, saying that they're a little funky, and I do agree they kind of look like bug ears or antlers or antenna or whatever you would call those. But The thing I like about them though is the fact that I can actually see everything around me. Like this left mirror over here, I can see both lanes behind me, and the right mirror, I can almost see both lanes. It's not like the Z. The stock mirrors on the Z, which almost look exactly the same, are total garbage. You can't see anything out of them. That's why everybody yanks them off and replaces them. Now, if you are coming from a Z, you have to remember to watch your speed, because this thing can speed and can get you in trouble. So just make sure that the 5.0 is nowhere to be seen when you really want to get into it. Another thing I'd like to point out is that a lot of people will underestimate you. They will laugh at you, they will say, it's just a 400, what a piece of shit. You know, go buy a real bike. You're gonna get that same shit that you get just like when you're riding the Z. You know, everybody, you know, like those assholes that are like, buy a real bike, pussy. But you're gonna get those guys. You're gonna get those guys, and they're gonna see you riding it, and they're gonna think that you're a total joke. But what can you say? The world is full of assholes, and anybody that says that this bike is a piece of shit or that you're a pussy for riding it is obviously a fucking moron. Because if they had ever ridden it, then they would never say that. I've let multiple people ride this bike, multiple experienced riders, and they've all said that it was extremely impressive for its size. If you're an experienced rider watching this video because you want to check it out for a friend, or you're trying to get somebody else into riding, you think this would be a good option for them, I suggest you go ride one. I mean, just experience it. I could honestly say that for some people, this bike might actually be too fast if they're really looking for a beginner's bike. One last thing I'd like to add is the seating position on this. Now, I've sat on a ZX6R. I've never ridden one, but I've sat on one. And you kind of sit like this in a natural position. You know, this is like half lean. But on this one, you can sit straight up, pretty much just like on the Z. But you can also lay down in a full tuck position. And you can feel the wind to just go around you like crazy. Like they really, really worked on the aero for this bike. While it is a $5,000 bike, it doesn't feel, ride, or look like a $5,000 bike. It performs like a $7,000 or $8,000 bike, and arguably a $10,000 to $15,000 bike, just depending on what you're talking about or what you're looking for. This is an extreme bargain, a great value. I would say that the Kawasaki Ninja 400 is a very well-balanced bike. I absolutely love it. I can't wait to make more videos for you guys, but you guys know the drill. That's it for today's video. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Peace!
What's up, kiddo? If there's anybody from HJC listening, fuck you. This helmet sucks.
Where do you want to meet at?
I don't know. Where you want me at?
You want to meet at Starbucks? What direction are we going? What are you doing?
Huh?
What are you doing?
Oh, man, Cody was with you. I was like, oh, wait, there's Cody.